Happy New Year. It's 2024, and that means there's going to be another year of UFC fights. And what I want to do is try to predict who will be the champion of each division by the end of the year. I'm going to start off with the Flyweight division, which the champion is Alexandre Pantoja. Now, right now, there's no clear number one contender, but there's two fights to look at. Manel Kape and Mateusz Nicolau, as well as Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. Now, I feel like if Manel Kape wins his fight, he'll be next in line for a title shot. But if Nicolau wins a fight, he'll probably not get a title shot because he would only be coming off of one win, and he wouldn't really deserve a title shot. But in my opinion, Manel Kape's going to win that fight, and I think he'll be the next one to face Alexandre Pantoja. And I feel like Pantoja wins that fight. He won the first fight, and they've both gotten better since, but I just think Pantoja's on that other level right now. I think he's hitting his prime, and he'll be able to defend against Manel Kape. The other fight, Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi, the winner of that fight probably gets a title shot. Like Albazi, he'll be on a winning streak, and Moreno, he always gets title shots. So if he wins, he gets a title shot. Now, Moreno, in my opinion, wins that fight, so he would probably be Pantoja's second opponent of the year, and that would be like their fourth time fighting. But I feel like still Pantoja wins that, and he will end the year off as champion. And moving on up, we have the Bantamweight division, which the current champion is Sean O'Malley. And right now, he's scheduled to face Marlon Vera in March, I'm pretty sure. And I feel like that's a fight that O'Malley's going to win pretty easily. There's a history between the two of them, but Marlon Vera doesn't really deserve the title shot. And it's pretty obvious that he's not, like, the top guy in that division. Like, I don't think he beats O'Malley. Like, he lost a really bad fight to Corey Sandhagen. And Marlon Vera, like, he didn't even win around that fight. So, like, he shouldn't even deserve a title shot. Corey Sandhagen should be a next, but there's that history between Vera and O'Malley. So, they want to book that fight, and because that gives a lot of promotion. It's like it's all about the money, and I feel like that's something Dana wants. He wants that history. He wants to promote that fight, but ultimately, that's going to be a pretty easy fight for O'Malley. I think he would win a boring decision, of him just poking with leg kicks and jabs and just win that fight boringly. It would be a boring fight. But moving on, the title challenger after that would probably be Corey Sandhagen, because he's like one of the guys that deserve the title shot the most, and he should be fighting for the belt, but they gave it to Vera, But yeah, the fight after that would be Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen, and that's a pretty competitive fight, honestly. Like, Sandhagen does have a way to win, like, it's not impossible, but, I feel like at the end of the day, O'Malley wins that fight. And I feel like he would end the year off with two title defenses. Like, Merab's not going to get the belt. Like, he's not going to fight for the belt this year, at least. And even if he did, I feel like O'Malley actually has a pretty good chance to win that fight. Like, I feel like too many people are writing off O'Malley, but he actually has a pretty good chance at winning that fight against Merab. And Cejudo, maybe he would beat Merab, but regardless, like, he's old. He's not beating O'Malley. So O'Malley's going to end off the year as champion, 2, maybe even 3 title defenses. I feel like this is going to be a pretty good year for O'Malley. But I feel like the hardest fight for him would be Corey Sandhagen, though. Next up is Featherweight, and right now the champion is Alexander Volkanovski, and he's already scheduled to face Ilia Topuria in February, so about a month away, and I feel like we'll be seeing the downfall of Volk. Honestly, it's like, I know Bedtime was talking about, like, 2023 would be his downfall, but I'm talking about the featherweight downfall of Volk. So, yeah, I feel like Volk, he's getting up there in age. He's 35, got knocked out in his last fight, and Topuria is a young guy with a lot of power, and he's hungry. He's ready for that belt, and I think he's going to eat Volk up. And then after that, they'll probably rematch in the summer. So, and I feel like Ilya would win that rematch as well. And then I feel like he ends the year off as champion. So it's going to be a good year for Ilya. He's going to be eating good. And then, I don't know, maybe he goes up to lightweight and knocks out Paddy Pimblett. Next up, we got lightweight, and the champion is Islam Makhachev. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't really see anybody beating him right now. It's like the 3 top contenders who could fight for a belt is Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira and Arman Sarukian, and to be honest, I don't see any of them beating Islam, The ideal timeline that I would have would probably be early in March. You have Islam versus Gaethje, and then in the meantime, you do Oliveira versus Arman to determine the next number one contender, and then the winner of that faces Islam. But I'm going to be honest, regardless of who he fights, I think he'll end this year off as a champion. Now we're at welterweight, and the current champion is Leon Edwards. And recently he announced that he'll be defending his belt at UFC 300. He hasn't said who he's facing next, but the most likely contender is Bilal Muhammad. He's on a big winning streak. Well, I wouldn't say big. It's been a bunch of snoozers, but it's been going on for a while, okay? He hasn't lost in a while. It's not Shavkat because Shavkat's injured right now. I think he hurt his foot. So he's not going to be ready by March or April, whenever UFC 300 is. So next up, it's probably going to be Bilal. And I think Leon Edwards wins that fight. In his last two fights, he's shown to have a really good takedown defense. It's like Usman and Colby had time taking him down and keeping him down. So I feel like Muhammad is going to have a really hard time getting Leon to the ground or even keeping him to the ground if he does. Like when Leon gets taken down, he just gets up, So I feel like that's a defense for Leon. And then probably later in the year, maybe like November, because Leon doesn't like to fight a lot, he'll face Shavkat. And I'm going to be honest, yeah, Shavkat probably wins that fight. I don't hate Leon's chances. Everybody's writing off Leon and saying that he would lose to Shavkat. But I don't hate Leon's chances. He has that good takedown defense. He's good in the clinch. Probably the best striker in that division. But I think Shavkat just takes it, He's a young guy. He's strong. He's deadly. He's dangerous on the ground. And I think Shavkat ends the year off as champion. All right, next we got middleweight. And the current champion is Deshaun Strickland. And in a couple weeks, he'll be defending his belt against Dricus du Plessis. And I feel like that's going to be a war, honestly. I don't think it's going to be just like a one-sided fight. But I think it's going to be a war. It's going to be one of the fights of the year. And I feel like Dricus takes it home. He's going to take that belt to Africa. First champion to do that. And then, he'll probably defend later on in the year in like September or something like that. We don't know who he would defend against, but I feel like the most likely contenders would be either Cannonier or Hamzat. And I feel like Dricus beats Hamzat pretty easily. Hamzat might do good in the first round, but he would gas after that. And I think Dricus would end up knocking him out later. Cannonier, though, Cannonier is actually pretty deadly. I think he's one of the worst matchups for Dricus, just because like his power could get du Plessis at any time. But, Cannonier is getting up there in age. I think he's like 39. Also, coming off like a ACL injury, so it's like, how good is he going to be when he comes back? First, he's going to take a lot of time off to recover from that. And second, rusty, old, wear and tear. I don't really think he would be able to beat du Plessis. Du Plessis is young. He's hungry. He's going to be defending that belt, representing Africa. And I think he ends the year off as champion. So real quick, this is me at like 3 a.m. editing this video. I just remembered Adesanya. So, I don't know, my point still stands. Dricus would beat Adesanya because he's the real African champ. Okay, next up we got light heavyweight. The current champion is Alex Pereira, Mr. Chama, Stoneface, you know what I'm saying? And I know right now there's talks of him going up to heavyweight to face Tom Aspinall, but I'm talking about light heavyweight. And I think the next challenger for him will probably be Jamal Hill. That's a pretty competitive fight, Hill's got a really good right hand. I feel like that right hand could knock him out, same right hand that Adesanya used to rock and knock him out with, same hand that, Yuri was hitting him with. But I think that Achilles injury is going to come real handy for Pereira. I think he's going to chew up his legs, and he's going to beat him with that. And then I feel like the winner of Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker will be the next number one contender at light heavyweight. And, if Walker wins that, somehow, he has a chance. He could, he's a guy who could beat anybody, but literally anybody could beat him. It's like some dude at Walmart could probably knock him out, And then with Magomed Ankalaev, he probably wins that fight against Walker. And then, like, at the end of the year, he would face Pereira in, like, December. And with that fight, Pereira's actually got a decent chance, because if Blachowicz could chew up Ankalaev's legs, what would Pereira do to his legs? But, at the end of the day, Ankalaev probably learned from that, and he's probably just going to wrestle him the whole time. So I think Magomed Ankalaev ends the year off as light heavyweight champion. And last but not least, we got the heavyweight division, and the current champion is John Jones. Also, we got Tom Aspinall as the interim champion. And, the obvious thing would be to have the interim champion face the undisputed champion, right? Unify the belts, But I don't think the UFC is going to do that. I think they'll do Jones versus Stipe, and then, Jones can say, oh, yeah, I beat the heavyweight GOAT, I'm the GOAT, and then he retires. And, in the meantime, maybe Aspinall will defend his interim belt against Gane, but, he would probably beat Gane regardless. And then I feel like after Jones retires, Aspinall would probably be upgraded to the undisputed champion. So he's the guy who's going to end off the year as champion. It'll be Tom Aspinall. I wish he could fight John Jones because that's the most interesting fight to make. But I feel like John Jones going for the legacy, not, facing new challengers. He wants that easy Stipe fight. And that wraps up who I think is going to be the champion by the end of the year, We can all come back at the end of the year and see if I was right or wrong. You guys can roast me for being wrong. You can think like, oh, why'd you think Shavkat would be champion? He looked like a bum against Leon, Who knows? Maybe I'll eat my words. Oh, yeah, there's the women's divisions. Nope.